Hi folks, today's story is a creepy and disturbing tale from the dark web. Remember, there's no real proof that these events happened. These are personal stories from people who say they experienced them. The dark web is a strange and mysterious place where fact and fiction often mix. Some of these stories sound unbelievable, but to those who share them, the fear is real. As you listen, keep in mind that these are like urban legends, scary, mysterious, and a warning about the dangers hidden online. A single click can lead to the unknown. If you enjoy spooky stories, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more chilling tales. Stay safe out there. Ethan was desperate. His dad was in the hospital, drowning in medical bills. The landlord had already given him an eviction notice. Credit cards? Maxed out. He was out of options and the stress was killing him. Then, one night, a guy from his online poker group mentioned something. Half drunk, he joked about selling a kidney on the dark web to clear his debt. Everyone laughed, but Ethan wasn't laughing. He needed money. Badly. That night, he downloaded the Tor browser and started digging. It didn't take long to find it. A hidden marketplace that looked like a mix between eBay and a back alley surgery clinic. Everything was for sale. Corneas, livers, bone marrow, even entire bodies. One listing caught his eye. Wanted. Healthy kidney, O+. $200,000 upon delivery. Discretion required. 200 grand. More than enough to fix everything. His hands trembled as he clicked the chat button. Ethan asterisk, I'm interested in the kidney offer. User 2937 asterisk, you're healthy? Ethan asterisk, yes. 28, no medical issues. User 2937 asterisk, good. Meet tomorrow, 10 p.m. Hotel Nova, room 214. Come alone. A hotel? He expected a hospital or a private clinic. But this was the dark web. These things weren't done in broad daylight. Still, something felt off. He hesitated before typing, "What about anesthesia?" The reply was instant. "We take care of everything. You go to sleep, wake up, and the money is in your account." Ethan thought about his dad, his debts, and how one kidney wouldn't kill him. "Okay. I'll be there." The Hotel Nova was the kind of place where people checked in but never checked out. The neon sign flickered weakly, and the air smelled like mildew and cigarette. Ethan's heart pounded as he stepped inside. The elevator creaked as he rode to the second floor. Room 214 was at the very end of the hallway. He knocked. The door opened immediately. A man in a black suit and surgical gloves stood there. He was tall, serious-looking. Behind him, the room was dimly lit. In the center, an operating table sat under a single lamp. A tray of surgical tools gleamed beside it. Ethan's stomach twisted. "Lie down," the man said. His voice was calm, emotionless. Ethan hesitated. "Are you a doctor?" No answer. The man picked up a syringe. "Anesthesia. It'll be painless." This was a mistake. Ethan took a step back. I changed my mind." The man sighed, as if he'd heard this before. Then he reached behind his back. Ethan saw the gun too late. "Lie down," the man repeated. Ethan obeyed. His body was shaking. The last thing he saw was the needle sinking into his arm. Then, darkness. He woke up gasping. His body ached. His mouth was dry. The air smelled like blood. He looked down. His shirt was gone. A thick bandage covered his side. They had taken his kidney. His stomach lurched. He grabbed his phone, hands shaking, and checked his bank account. Balance. $0.00. No payment. He started to panic. He needed to get out of there. He swung his legs off the bed, but the floor was wet. His foot slipped slightly. He looked down. A dark liquid had spread across the carpet. It was coming from behind the bed. His heart pounded. Something inside him whispered, "Don't look. Just run asterisk asterisk." But he did. And he almost threw up. A body lay there. Naked. Stomach sliced open, organs missing. His face frozen in a silent scream. Ethan recognized him. It was the man who had put him to sleep. The surgeon was dead. A phone rang. Not Ethan's. The dead man's phone, still clutched in his stiff fingers. It rang once, then stopped. A text popped up on the screen. The first payment has been sent. The second payment comes after the heart. Ethan's blood turned to ice. They hadn't planned on just taking his kidney. They wanted his heart next. Something moved outside the door. Footstep. Then a knock. Ethan didn't wait. He grabbed the dead man's gun and ran. He burst through the door, sprinted down the hallway, and threw himself out of the window. He hit the pavement hard, pain shooting through his side, but he didn't stop. He kept running. He ran until the hotel was just a nightmare behind him. 2 days later, an email arrived. No subject, no sender, just one line. "We still need that heart." Attached was a blurry photo, a surveillance image, of Ethan, running, escaping. They knew. They were watching, and they weren't done with him yet. Ethan stared at the email, his heart pounding in his chest. His hands trembled as he read the words over and over again. "We still need that heart." His mouth went dry. The attached image, a grainy black and white surveillance photo, showed him mid-sprint, escaping the Hotel Nova. They knew. They had seen everything. He slammed his laptop shut and backed away as if the email itself was a living thing, something that could reach out and drag him back into that nightmare. His side ached. He lifted his shirt and peeled back the bandage. The incision was clean, but the bruising around it was deep purple, spreading like an infection. They had taken his kidney. But they weren't done with him. Panic surged through him. He had to disappear. Now. Ethan packed what little he had, cash, a burner phone, a cheap hoodie, and bolted. He couldn't go home. If they had found him once, they'd find him again. His dad was still in the hospital, completely unaware of what Ethan had done. That was the only relief in all of this. At least they weren't targeting him. He needed a place to hide. Somewhere off the grid. He took a bus out of the city, heading to a town he barely remembered from a childhood road trip. It was small, quiet, surrounded by nothing but miles of empty land. The kind of place people went to disappear. The motel he checked into was cheap and smelled like mildew. He paid in cash and used a fake name. For a while it was quiet. Too quiet. Every time someone walked past his door, his muscles tensed. Every knock at a neighboring room made his breath hitch. He didn't sleep much. Every shadow in the parking lot looked like a figure standing there, waiting. And then, on the third night, his burner phone buzzed. A text. "Don't run. You belong to us." Ethan dropped the phone like it was burning hot. His stomach twisted. How did they find him? His mind raced through possibilities. The motel didn't ask for ID. He hadn't used his real name. He'd paid in cash. But then it hit him. The bandage. They had chipped him. A cold wave of dread washed over him. That was the only explanation. Somewhere inside his body, they had implanted a tracker. He ran to the bathroom, flipping on the harsh fluorescent light. He stared at himself in the mirror, his face pale, sunken. His fingers trembled as he pressed along the edge of the bandaged wound. There. A hard lump, just beneath the surface of his skin. He swallowed hard. They hadn't just taken his kidney. They had marked him. Ethan didn't think. He acted. He grabbed a pocket knife from his bag, breathing hard. He clenched his teeth and pressed the blade to his skin. Pain flared, white-hot and blinding. He bit back a scream as he sliced, blood running down his side. His fingers dug into the open wound. He fought against the burning agony as he searched. Then, he felt it. A tiny hard object. With a final, desperate yank, he pulled it out. A small, black device, no bigger than a grain of rice, coated in his own blood. His vision swam as he stumbled to the sink, his body screaming in protest. He grabbed the tiny chip and crushed it under his boot, grinding it into dust. For a moment, he just stood there, shaking, breath ragged. But he wasn't safe yet. They knew he was here. And they were coming. Ethan didn't wait around to see who would knock first. He grabbed his bag and slipped out through the back of the motel. The night air was thick, humid, pressing against him like a second skin. He needed a plan. They wanted his heart. Why? Money? Sure. But the way they operated, it wasn't just about that. They had let him wake up. Let him see what they did. That wasn't normal. That wasn't how these things work. He wasn't just an organ donor. He was a target. His mind flashed back to that hotel room. The surgeon dead on the floor. The message on the phone. The first payment has been sent. The second payment comes after the heart. Who had sent that? Who was paying? And why the heart? A sick realization crept in. The dark web wasn't just a marketplace. It was a hunting ground. He wasn't running from doctors. He was running from buyers. Someone out there had already paid for his heart. And they weren't going to stop until they had it. Ethan kept moving, staying in bus stations, abandoned buildings, anywhere he could blend in. Days blurred together. He was exhausted, starving, running on pure fear. And then, another email. No subject. No sender ***. He didn't want to open it. Every instinct screamed at him to throw the phone away. But his fingers moved on their own. Inside was a single image. A live surveillance feed. Of him. Right then. Right there. Someone was watching. His blood ran cold. He whipped his head around, scanning the crowd. His eyes locked onto a figure standing near the exit. A man in a black suit. Expressionless. Motionless. But staring directly at him. Ethan bolted. He ran blindly, shoving past people, weaving through alleys. He could hear footsteps behind him, steady, unhurried. They didn't need to chase him. They knew where he'd go. His chest burned. His stitches tore open. Blood soaked through his shirt. Then, a car screeched to a halt in front of him. The back door swung open. A voice. Get in. Now. A stranger. But the men in suits were closing in. Ethan had no choice. He threw himself inside. The door slammed shut and the car peeled off, tires screeching. He turned to his unexpected savior, a woman, mid-30s, dark eyes full of urgency. You're not safe, she said. Not even close. Ethan swallowed hard. Who are you? She glanced in the rearview mirror. The only person left who wants you alive. And with that, the nightmare continued. Ethan sat in the passenger seat, chest heaving, blood still seeping through his torn shirt. The woman driving didn't look at him. Her focus stayed locked on the road, hands gripping the wheel like she was expecting a crash at any second. The city lights blurred past in a haze of neon and shadows. He swallowed hard. Who the hell are you? She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she reached over, popped open the glove compartment, and pulled out a small, white medical kit. She tossed it onto his lap. Patch yourself up first. Then we talk. Ethan hesitated. He didn't trust her. He didn't trust anyone anymore. But he didn't have a choice. He tore open the kit, pulling out alcohol wipes and gauze. When he pressed the wipe against his wound, he hissed in pain. The woman glanced at him. You're lucky, she muttered. You got the tracker out before they could activate the failsafe. Ethan's fingers froze mid-wrap. Failsafe? She finally looked at him. If they can't retrieve the organ, they destroy it? Ethan's stomach turned. You mean, they would have fried your heart inside your chest? His breath caught in his throat. That tiny chip he had dug out of his own skin, it wasn't just a tracker. It was a kill switch. You're supposed to be dead, she said, her voice quiet but firm. And the people who bought you? They don't like not getting what they paid for. Ethan clenched his fists, his mind racing. Who are you? He asked again. She exhaled. Call me V. Are you one of them? If I was, you wouldn't be sitting here. That wasn't exactly comforting. V made a sharp turn onto an empty highway, leaving the glow of the city behind. Ethan watched the road signs blur past. They were heading away from civilization. His instincts screamed at him to run. But where? Back into the hands of the people hunting him? V must have seen his tension. Relax. I'm not taking you to them. I'm trying to keep you alive. Ethan forced himself to breathe. Why? For the first time, her expression softened. Just slightly. Because I was you. A long time ago. They drove in silence for hours. The city faded behind them, swallowed by endless dark roads. Eventually, V pulled into a rundown gas station, the kind that looked abandoned even when it wasn't. She killed the engine. We need to ditch the car. Ethan frowned. Why? You think they can track it? I know they can. This thing is probably flagged already. Ethan hesitated. And what, we just steal another one? V smirked. Exactly. Ethan felt his stomach knot. He wasn't a criminal. At least, he hadn't been before all of this. But this wasn't about right or wrong anymore. It was about survival. V led him behind the station, where a rusty old pickup truck was parked near a dumpster. She crouched by the driver's door and pulled out a screwdriver from her jacket. Ethan shifted nervously. You're weirdly good at this. She didn't respond. Within seconds, the lock popped open. Get in. They climbed in, and V worked on hot wiring the ignition. The engine coughed, sputtered, then roared to life. She threw it into gear and peeled away, dust kicking up behind them. Okay, Ethan said, still gripping the seat. Now will you tell me what's going on? V sighed. What do you know about the black auction? Ethan frowned. The what? V glanced at him. Exactly. Most people don't even know it exists. But if you're rich enough, powerful enough, you can buy anything there. And I mean anything: organs, rare blood type, even entire people. Ethan's stomach churned. And I was, what? A product? Not just any product, V said. You were a special order. Ethan's mouth went dry. Someone picked you specifically. Your name, your face. It was in a file long before you even knew they existed. His pulse pounded in his ears. Why? Why me? V's jaw tightened. That's what we need to find out. They drove for another few hours, stopping only once to refuel at a station where the cashier barely looked up from his phone. Ethan had too many questions, but V had shut down, focused entirely on the road. The exhaustion finally hit him. His body ached, his head pounded. He drifted into an uneasy sleep. Then, a loud bang shattered the silence. Ethan jerked awake just as the truck swerved violently. Shit! V yelled, fighting to control the wheel. Another bang, the rear windshield exploded. They had found them. V yanked the wheel, sending the truck off the road and onto a dirt path. Headlights in the rearview mirror, 3 black SUVs were chasing them, gaining fast. Hold on, she shouted. Ethan barely had time to react before the truck slammed through a metal fence and into the wood. Branches scraped the sides, the tires skidding in the mud. Are you insane? Ethan shouted. V gritted her teeth. They won't risk crashing in here. But she was wrong. The SUVs didn't slow. They were coming. Ethan's heart pounded. What do we do? V didn't answer. She yanked a gun from her jacket and shoved it into his hands. You shoot if you have to. Ethan's hands shook. He had never held a gun before. Never even thought about using one. But now? Now he might not have a choice. The headlights got closer. The trees thinned. And up ahead, a cliff, V cursed. We're out of road. Ethan looked back. The SUVs were almost on them. Men in dark suits were already stepping out, weapons drawn. V, he said, voice shaking. What do we do? She exhaled. Something really stupid. She slammed the gas pedal. The truck surged forward. And just before they reached the edge, she yanked the wheel. The truck spun sideways, skidding to a halt inches from the drop. But V and Ethan? They were already jumping out. The moment they hit the ground, Ethan rolled, pain exploding through his body. The world spun. He barely had time to get his bearings before V grabbed his arm and pulled him to his feet. Run, she yelled. No time to think. No time to breathe. They ran into the darkness, leaving behind the truck, the headlights, the men. But Ethan knew this wasn't over. Not even close. Ethan's legs burned as he sprinted through the forest, his breath ragged, his mind screaming at him to keep moving. Behind them, voices shouted in the darkness, sharp, urgent commands. The men weren't giving up. They were coming. Branches whipped against his face, the ground uneven beneath his feet. Vi ran ahead, moving like she had done this 100 times before. Ethan had no choice but to follow. Then, a gunshot, a tree trunk exploded inches from Ethan's head. He stumbled but kept going. His fingers clenched around the cold metal of the gun Vi had given him. Could he really use it? Another shot. Closer this time. We can't outrun them forever, Ethan panted. We won't have to, Vi called back. Just a little farther. He didn't know what she meant, but he trusted her. He had to. The trees thinned, and suddenly they broke into a clearing. A massive, rusted-out drainage tunnel loomed ahead, partially hidden by overgrown weed. Vi didn't slow down. She darted inside, disappearing into the blackness. Ethan hesitated. The tunnel looked endless, a yawning abyss of nothing. But behind him, he could hear their pursuers closing in. He ran inside. Darkness swallowed them whole. The air was damp, thick with the stench of stagnant water and rust. Their footsteps echoed, bouncing off the curved walls. Ethan's heart pounded. Where does this lead? Somewhere safer than out there, Vi muttered. A flicker of light cut through the darkness. Vi had pulled out a small flashlight, the beam barely enough to see more than a few steps ahead. Ethan could hear water dripping somewhere deep inside the tunnel. They kept running. Then a sound. Not behind them. Ahead. Ethan skidded to a stop, grabbing Vi's arm. Did you hear that? Vi froze, her flashlight beam shaking slightly. A whisper. Too close. Too wrong, ***. And then, ***, a voice, ***. You shouldn't have come here. Ethan's blood turned to ice. The flashlight flickered, and for the briefest second, he saw something move in the shadows ahead. Not just one figure. Many. Dozens of silhouettes emerged from the darkness, their eyes glinting in the dim light. They stood motionless, blocking the tunnel's exit. Some were missing limbs. Others had deep, jagged scars, like surgical incisions that never fully healed. Ethan took a step back. Who are they? Vi's voice was tight. The ones who didn't escape, the ones who had been harvested. A sharp, metallic sound rang out. One of the figures stepped forward, dragging something behind them. A scalpel glinted in the dim light. We have to go, Vi whispered. But the way back was no longer an option. Shadows shifted behind them. Their pursuers had arrived. Trap. No way out. Ethan's fingers tightened around the gun. His breath came in shallow gasps. And then, ***, the flashlight died, ***. Darkness swallowed everything. The whispers grew louder. And in that suffocating blackness, Ethan finally understood. The Black Auction never let anyone go.